say that.
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill, we know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on Firstpost America. Hello and welcome to Firstpost America. I'm Eric Ham, coming to you live from the nation's capital in Washington, D.C. Now, before we delve into the day's top stories, let's get you up to date on the latest headlines. Thousands of Iranians attend the funeral procession of late President Ibrahim Raisi and his companions who were killed in a helicopter crash on Sunday. Israeli forces carry out a raid in the West Bank, killing at least 7 Palestinians and wounding 9 others in the city of Jenin. Israel says the raid was part of a counterterrorism operation. Haiti's only international airport reopens for the first time in nearly 3 months after relentless gang violence forced a shutdown. U.S.-based airlines to start operations by June. Kenyan President William Ruto arrives in Atlanta, Georgia for a 4-day visit to the United States. President Joe Biden to host the African leader on May 23rd in Washington. And a U.S. congressional investigation finds car makers BMW, Land Rover, Jaguar, and Volkswagen use components supplied by Chinese firms banned by Washington due to the use of forced labor by Uyghur Muslims. We begin right here in the United States. President Joe Biden has come out in support of Israel after the International Criminal Court's prosecutor sought an arrest warrant for Israel's prime minister and defense minister. Now, speaking at an event from the White House marking Jewish American Heritage Month, the president called the world's court's request outrageous and unacceptable. Now, despite frosty relations, President Biden strongly defended Israel in its war against Hamas, refusing to label the military operation a genocide.
Let me be clear. We reject the ICC's application for arrest warrants against Israeli leaders. Whatever these warrants may imply, there is no equivalence between Israel and Hamas. And it's clear Israel wants to do all it can to ensure civilian protection. But let me be clear. Contrary to allegations against Israel made by the International Court of Justice, what's happening is not genocide. We reject that. We're going to always stand with Israel and the threats against its security.
The commander-in-chief doubled down on his comments, pledging ironclad support to Israel in its war against Hamas.
And my commitment to the safety of the Jewish people, security of Israel, and its right to exist as an independent Jewish state is ironclad. We stand with Israel to take out Sinwar and the rest of the butchers of Hamas. We want Hamas defeated. We'll work with Israel to make that happen. And consistent with Jewish values and compassion, kindness and dignity and human life.
And Democratic and Republican leaders joined President Biden in defending Israel against the World Court's arrest warrants for the Israeli leadership.
The ICC prosecutor's decision seeking arrest warrants for Israeli leaders alongside Hamas terrorists is not only profoundly unfair, but it is reprehensible. As disappointing as the ICC's decision is, it comes as no surprise, because for decades and decades, the ICC has shown it harbors deep biases against Israel. This decision, suggesting an equivalency between Israel and Hamas, is another glaring example of that bias against Israel.
In the same breath, the self-aggrandizing prosecutor of the International Criminal Court applied for arrest warrants for both Hamas chief terrorists and Israel's duly elected prime minister. It's a damning development.
Now, Republican lawmakers from Texas and New York even went so far as to urge President Biden to sanction the International Criminal Court and revoke visas of individuals involved in the investigation. The International Criminal Court's prosecutor had requested an arrest warrant for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant on May 20th. The world's court request also includes arrest warrants for senior Hamas leaders, including its group leader, Yahya Sinwar. However, despite Washington backing Israel, some nations actually celebrated the International Court's request. South Africa, which actually brought the genocide case against Israel to the World Court, has welcomed the prosecutor's announcement of issuing arrest warrants. And joining the African nation are Turkey, Colombia, Egypt, and France, the only Western power to back the World Court's request. And staying in the United States, former President Donald Trump has managed to spark outrage once again, this time using language invoking echoes of Nazi Germany again. Donald Trump posted a video on his Truth social media platform showing hypothetical headlines if the Republican Party's presumptive nominee was in fact reelected. The short clip had a big headline that said, "What next for America?" and was followed by smaller headlines including "The economy booms," "The border is closed," and "The creation of a unified Reich." Now, the word Reich is commonly used in reference to the Third Reich, which was the official name of Nazi Germany under Adolf Hitler. Donald Trump's campaign says they did not see that the video had the word Reich in it before it was posted and viewed by millions. Donald Trump, of course, has a long history of invoking language glorifying Nazi Germany and has often dined with white supremacists accused of being anti-Semites. Now, President Joe Biden's campaign has slammed Donald Trump for the anti-Semitic rhetoric and accused the Republican of having dictator-like tendencies. Now, the video was posted when Donald Trump was in New York attending his hush money trial on Monday afternoon. Monday also marked Trump's former aide turned foe, Michael Cohen's fourth and final day on the witness stand. Cohen maintained that he made the hush money payment to adult film actor Stormy Daniels on behalf of Donald Trump. However, the former lawyer also admitted to stealing tens of thousands of dollars from Trump's own company as the prosecution rested its case. Walking out of the courtroom, Donald Trump seemed oblivious to the political storm caused by his references to Nazi Germany as he mercilessly attacked President Joe Biden.
Nobody's ever seen anything like this. This is a witch hunt. This is a witch hunt. This is to damage crooked Joe Biden, the worst president in the history of our country, by far, to damage his political opponent. That's all this is. A highly political judge, a totally conflicted judge, who just did something that nobody's ever seen. And the press is not happy, I don't imagine. They just got thrown out of a courthouse. Nobody's ever seen anything quite like it.
Now, with closing arguments in the historical trial just a week away, Donald Trump said his lawyers have urged Judge Juan Merchan to drop the case altogether.
I think the case is going very well. We've asked for termination of the case. This case should be terminated. This shouldn't go anywhere. It should be terminated right now. And New York State has to build up its system again. New York State can't let this happen. Can't let this happen. There were no crimes. We did nothing wrong. And I want to get back to campaigning. I'm representing millions and millions, hundreds of millions of people.
Now, Donald Trump's repeated references to Nazi Germany is meant to energize and excite the white nationalist fervor within the MAGA base. However, it's unclear if such rhetoric plays well with key independents and suburban soccer moms, the voters that will in fact decide the outcome of this race. And now, moving to the war in Europe, Russia launched a deadly assault on a popular lake resort on the outskirts of the Ukrainian city of Kharkiv on Monday. At least 11 people have been killed with over 40 wounded as Ukrainian first responders arrived at the deadly attack. Ukraine has accused Russia of deliberately targeting civilians who were simply enjoying their vacation at the resort. And with the country's northeast region witnessing increased fighting, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has called the situation on the battlefield the most difficult since the Russian invasion began back in February of 2022. And now, in what seems like a desperate attempt to protect his people, President Zelensky has urged NATO to step in and stop the Russian onslaught. The Ukrainian president wants NATO members to launch fighter jets from NATO air bases that would shoot down incoming Russian missiles.
Russians are using 300 planes on the territory of Ukraine. We need at least 120 to 130 planes to resist, to fight back in the sky. You can't provide that right now. Okay, so we're going back to air defense. You can't provide that either. F-16s, you can't provide that yet. So we are returning to the planes that you have on the territory of neighboring NATO countries. Raise them up. They are there. Use them. Shoot down targets. Protect civilians.
Now, Zelensky says that since NATO would only be defending Ukraine against Russian attacks, it did not imply that the Western Security Alliance would be in direct confrontation with Moscow.
Can they do this? I'm sure that yes. Is this an attack by NATO countries? No. They would shoot down a missile that would potentially blow up a gas storage facility from where gas is transported to NATO countries. Is this protecting it? Yes. Or they would shoot down a missile that could potentially hit civilians of a NATO country. Is this defending them? Yes.
Now, under NATO Charter's Article 5, NATO members provide collective defense to each other and respond if a NATO ally is in fact attacked. An attack on one means an attack on all. However, Ukraine is still negotiating its entry into the security alliance and is not yet a member of NATO. But President Zelensky says that defending against Russian missiles would not invoke Article 5, as NATO would only be defending Ukraine and would not be directly involved in the war. The Ukrainian president's request for NATO to provide defense comes despite Vladimir Putin's repeated warnings to NATO against helping Kyiv. Putin has repeatedly warned NATO of starting World War III if it becomes directly involved in the conflict in Ukraine. And now, shifting focus to the Middle East, Saudi Arabia's national airline has signed a deal with European plane maker Airbus in the largest deal ever in the country's aviation history. Their airline has placed a hefty order for 105 planes, reportedly worth $19 billion. Now, this comes just months after Airbus' American rival Boeing had been tipped that it would, in fact, win more Saudi business. However, Boeing has been making headlines for all the wrong reasons. Our next report goes inside the competition between the two plane makers and how Airbus came out on top.
Saudi Arabia's national airline has signed its largest ever aircraft deal with Airbus. Saudia Airlines has placed a hefty order for 105 planes, which marks a bounce back for the French plane maker just months after its American rival Boeing had been tipped to win more Saudi business. Saudia Group, the parent company of Saudi Arabia's national airline and its budget carrier Flyer Deal, says this is the biggest deal in the country's aviation history. The group's Director General Ibrahim Al-Omar says the first planes would be delivered in the first quarter of 2026. At present, Saudia Group's current fleet includes 93 Airbus and 51 Boeing aircraft. Now the latest deal increases the group's existing backlog of Airbus orders to 144 aircraft. The 105 newly ordered jets are from the A320neo family and are reportedly worth $19 billion. In a separate statement, Al-Omar said that the latest Airbus deal would help realize Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's Vision 2030. It's a program launched by Riyadh that aims to diversify the nation's economy away from oil. A key part of it is making Saudi Arabia an attractive destination for tourists. The country hopes to attract 150 million tourists every year by 2030. Al-Omar says his group is increasing flights and seat capacity for more than 100 existing destinations across 4 continents, which will ultimately boost the Saudi Kingdom's tourism sector and meet growing demand. This comes as Saudi Arabia plans to become a new regional aviation hub. In March, Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman launched a new national airline called Riyadh Air. And last year, he announced plans to transform the Riyadh airport into a 6-runway hub. The latest deal between Saudia Group and Airbus comes as bad news for the French aircraft maker's US rival, Boeing. In November last year, Riyadh Air said it was weeks away from placing a large order reportedly involving the Boeing 737 MAX. But months later, no such order has surfaced, and instead, all the spotlight is on Airbus. Boeing has also been facing backlash over a series of safety failures, including a mid-air blowout of part of a plane's fuselage. This prompted several probes into Boeing's practices and an executive shake-up. But the trouble for the American aircraft maker is not new. It has been struggling for 6 years, ever since its 737 MAX aircraft fatally crashed in 2018 and 2019. This resulted in a 20-month grounding of Boeing's best-selling plane, after which the COVID-19 pandemic added to more of its losses. Since 2019, Boeing has reportedly adjusted losses of more than $31 billion, and its stock prices plummeted by almost 28% since the beginning of this year. It has a backlog of orders for more than 5,600 commercial jets worth $529 billion. The plane maker is unable to manufacture planes on time as it's trying to resolve its quality issues. And now, with losing business in Saudi Arabia to Airbus, it seems like Boeing's flight has been further delayed.
And finally, artificial intelligence firm OpenAI has made an Avenger furious. The company launched a conversational model of its AI chatbot ChatGPT last week. And actor Scarlett Johansson thinks it has an eerily similar voice to hers. The Hollywood superstar claims that OpenAI offered her to voice another AI model, which she declined last September. Now, amid the criticism, OpenAI has suspended the AI voice. However, it says the voice was not derived from Johansson's, but instead belongs to a different professional actor. Our final report looks at the growing controversy.
With its latest ChatGPT upgrade just last week, tech company OpenAI has found itself in legal trouble. This time from an Avenger. Coming after the artificial intelligence research organization is Hollywood superstar Scarlett Johansson. OpenAI recently launched a conversational model of its AI chatbot, called GPT-4o, and it has shocked and angered the Black Widow actor. Johansson says the voice that the new AI model uses is eerily similar to hers.
And frankly, I'm feeling a little bit nervous. Can you help me calm my nerves a little bit?
Oh, you're doing a live demo right now? That's awesome. Just take a deep breath. And remember,
Johansson also claims that OpenAI CEO Sam Altman reached out to her last September and offered to hire her to voice the current ChatGPT 4.0 system. However, she declined the offer for personal reasons. Now, Johansson adds, and I quote, "9 months later, my friends, family and the general public all noted how much the newest system named Sky sounded like me." End quote. Johansson is not the only one to find OpenAI's new chatbot's voice like hers. When the upgrade debuted last week, critics and social media users were quick to point out the similarity.
Okay, I'll try again. Breathing in and breathe out.
that's it. How do you feel?
I feel a lot better. Thank you so
The
much.
flirty and conversational tone of the chatbot drew comparisons to the film Her that released in 2013. Set in the near future, the movie Her sees actor Joaquin Phoenix fall in love with his phone's AI voice assistant that is voiced by Scarlett Johansson. In the film, Phoenix is left heartbroken when the AI admits she is in love with hundreds of other users. Now, when OpenAI showed off its new model on May 13th, Altman referenced the name of the same movie in a post on X. Johansson said Altman used this post to insinuate the similarity was intentional. The actor's allegations come after OpenAI said it was hitting the pause button on the new model. The retreat followed massive backlash to the AI model that was described as being overly familiar and a product of a male developer's fantasy.
How does this look?
Now OpenAI says the voice in question is not derived from Johansson's but instead belongs to a different professional actor who used her own natural speaking voice.
The maximum temperature during these months is roughly between 25 degrees and 30 degrees.
CEO Altman has given more clarification, saying we cast the voice actor behind Sky's voice before any outreach to Ms. Johansson. Out of respect for Ms. Johansson, we have paused using Sky's voice in our products. We are sorry to Ms. Johansson that we didn't communicate better, end quote. However, Johansson says she hired legal counsel and sent 2 letters to Altman, following which OpenAI reluctantly agreed to take down the AI voice. OpenAI's dispute with Johansson adds to its ongoing legal disputes with artists, writers, and other creatives. The company is currently facing multiple lawsuits alleging unauthorized use of copyrighted material to train its algorithms. But time and again, OpenAI has refuted these claims, saying it respects the rights of the owners and hopes AI technology would only benefit them in the long run.
That's our show for today. We certainly thank you so much for tuning in. We hope to see you right back here again tomorrow. Thanks again for watching. From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. The race for the White House is heating up.
We're beating Biden.
How dare he say that?
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill, we know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on First Post America.